On weather now. Well, the heavens really have truly opened across many parts of South Africa. Multiple areas across the country battling the effects of heavy rains. Homes have been flooded, some even washed away completely. Infrastructure, roads severely damaged, making relief efforts very difficult. And we've seen the impact on electricity with power lines going down here in Johannesburg in particular. Well, NCA's reporters have been on the ground just assessing the latest. Let's bring in Ronald Masinda, who is in Mchunu in the Eastern Cape. Ronald, thank you so much for joining us. So we know that earlier this year, around April, there were parts of the Eastern Cape badly affected by flooding. What is the situation where you are at the moment in Mchunu? What areas are of extreme concern this evening?
Good evening, Sally. Well, at the moment I can say that the weather has subsided after a heavy downpour earlier, about an hour ago. But what we can say, Sally, is that there's been heavy rains even last night in this particular region, the OR Tambo district municipality. We're also being told that we can expect rain during the course of the long weekend. But what we also understand is that officials here say that they will leave nothing to chance, because what took place in April was unprecedented. I mean, it is one of the areas that were affected by the heavy rains. This area, as well as the Alfred and Zoe, the Chris Hani and Joe Gabi area. This is where, in these areas, 1,000 people were left homeless. There were around 55 villages without electricity due to the damages the floods had caused, as well as 10 schools and 12 health facilities that were badly damaged due to these floods, including roads. And it's for this reason that the OR Tambo district municipality says that they've tried to prepare communities a lot better this time around, also given the information that they've received from the SA Weather Service. We heard from Zimkhitha earlier on, and this is what she had to say.
Not good news at all for OR Tambo district. Yes, they have confirmed that we are going to have a very hot summer holiday season. And also, even though it's going to be very hot, we are expecting a lot of rains compared to the previous year. That means, as the district municipality, especially the disaster and risk management unit, we need to be prepared. We are prepared. We have already procured food parcels, which are currently in our stores. We have mattresses, we have blankets, so that in cases where the members of the community are affected, we are able to support them. The other good news for us is that last week, 2 weeks ago, we were visited by the Minister of Human Settlements, who outlined a clear plan how they are going to assist the district in terms of eradicating the mud structures. Because we've also noticed that when there are heavy rains, these informal housing units or the mud structures are the ones that are always affected. So those partnerships that we have with the sector departments and the national departments are really assisting us.
And Ronald, just assist me. Is it the beginning of your rainy season, or are you like the Western Cape that has rain in winter?
Yes, so it is indeed the beginning of the rainy season, and it is expected to continue well beyond the festive season. But what we've heard from the municipality earlier on is that they've put contingency plans in place. They say that over the past 2 years, they've been planning and also creating awareness to many people who live in low-lying areas, many people in rural communities, for example, who have lost livestock during the heavy rainfalls, and they've gone there and they've advised them as to how they can sort of try and navigate their way around this rainy season. And what we also understand is that, of course, the municipality doesn't have the budget in terms of accommodating people who are affected in large numbers. So during April, they were assisted by national government as well as the provincial government, who came to assist them in terms of helping people to find alternative accommodation, as well as have essential items such as food. But this time around, seems like the municipality is saying that they are well prepared for the eventuality of lives being threatened, but it will be out of their control in terms of what this weather will bring to the people. This is what Zimkhitha said further.
Well, because disaster is a natural occurrence, I wouldn't say they reduced the damages. However, we make sure that people are prepared and know what they need to do in cases where there are floods or thunderstorms like we are expecting today. The warning that we received from the South African Weather Services has already been issued to the members of the community. Our councillors are aware, so that when there are people that are affected, they are able to connect with us so that we can support them. What we can obviously see from the previous years is that since we started these awareness campaigns, the number of deaths has drastically decreased, because now people know what to do. People don't cross flooded rivers. We even encourage motorists not to drive through low water bridges when it's flooded. So because they have the information and know what to do, they partner with us and make sure that their lives and livelihoods are taken care of during those periods.
All right, so that's the situation in the Eastern Cape. Thank you so much for that, Ronald Masinda. Let's now move to the situation in and around Johannesburg and bring in Manqoba Mchunu. Manqoba, you have been around Johannesburg, and there are lots of different areas. We've seen an impact in Soweto, in Florida, even in sort of central and northern Johannesburg. Talk to me about where you've been and what you've seen, where we are currently.
Well, so we've visited several areas today. Of course, some of them that have been affected by power, some of the suburbs that are still without power due to some of the damage that was caused to the infrastructure. And those, of course, include suburbs like Hurst Hill. But there's good news, Sally. Most of the power cut issues have been resolved. But however, there are still some that are still without power as we speak. But as far as damage is concerned, we also went to Hendrik Potgieter, that big, sinkhole that we saw opening up when the road collapsed. And the MEC of Transport here in Gauteng was actually there to assess the situation and to see for herself what had happened there. But I can tell you, sir, that road has been destroyed. 2 lanes of that road have been destroyed, and traffic is unable to move. It's not safe at this particular point for traffic to move. And the MEC is saying it could take about 6 to 8 months for that road to be fixed. So the engineers are on site. They're busy assessing some of the damages, the structural damages that have happened, and they will begin with that reparation work. But we also went, Sally, to some of the affected areas in Soweto, where we saw residents, who were trying to pick up the pieces, who were trying to continue those mop-up operations, but they were halted today because of the rains that came again. So they were quite disappointed, but also quite nervous, quite anxious, because every time it rains, they say that they fear because they don't know what's going to happen. And I spoke to one of the ladies there from the house, and just take a listen, Sally, to the feeling that she describes when it rains.
We are worried. We are scared, as I can say, because when it starts to rain, we feel like it's going to flood again. And our kids are very scared. When it starts raining, they will just shout like, "Mama, let's go out of here," because we don't know what's going to happen next. Yeah.
And you were telling me a bit earlier on that you don't even sleep at night.
Yes, we don't sleep at night, actually, because you can see since Friday it was raining, and then when the lights goes off, we have to switch on our cell phone light to keep it on the whole night, and then to watch out what's going on, because you can't sleep when it's raining after what we have witnessed. We have to stay awake.
Yeah, that anxiety when you hear the rain, you're just not sure what impact it's going to have on your home. And of course, you mentioned what happened in Florida, that stretch of highway, which is a big highway, and it's like someone has taken a massive bite out of it. I mean, it's truly astonishing. We also know, of course, that the mayor of Johannesburg has asked Eskom if we can have a reprieve for 3 days. But it's interesting that you mentioned most of the electrical problems are now being resolved. What we do know is that the mayor's office is saying that Eskom has acknowledged receipt of her request, but they haven't as yet replied. Talk to me about the residents that have actually lost their homes. When I spoke to David Tembe, the MMC, a few days ago, he said over 600 people were needing assistance. He said they were being looked after. When you spoke to people on the ground, did you get the same message?
Well, Sally, what we know at this stage is that there are over 2,000 households that have been affected by this. But these are, of course, houses as well as, households and informal settlements that have been affected by this. But in terms of people, Sally, we know it's over 300 people that have been displaced by this. Most of them are in community halls. And we visited, some of them, not today though, but a few days earlier, where we spoke to some of the residents who are staying at a community hall in Mansfield, just to get a sense of how, things are. And what they're telling us, Sally, is that, they are relieved that there's a plan in place. But one of the issues that they raise is around, food, that the fact that, they're not getting enough food supplies being brought to them. It doesn't seem at this stage that there is a plan for them, to be given those, food supplies. But as far as the accommodation itself is concerned, it's private, Sally. They've separated it into rooms, so people are not in an open hall. It's not, where people complain of not having privacy. So it is private, sort of rooms where families are then cluttered into those rooms. And as far as that is concerned, of course, they are quite anxious, Sally, because they are saying that they want to return to their homes. They've lost a lot, and they want to know what's going to happen. They want to know, what sort of interventions are going to come from government. But also, many of the residents that we spoke to, Sally, on the ground, those that have been affected, who are still going back to their houses. Some of them went back because they're saying, Sally, they can't leave their houses for too long because criminals come and take advantage of the situation. So they've gone back to their houses. They're trying as much to pick up the pieces. But they're saying, Sally, that what they want most from government is a plan for them to be moved, because many of them are in low-lying areas, and they're saying that they simply want to be moved from these places. Like this gentleman that we spoke to. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We are glad that finally they did listen, because it's been over 10 years we've been having this problem. So we are glad that they came and tried to assist us. But at the same time, eventually, I would say we are happy, but we are still lack of some stuff, because as she just mentioned, that we have problem of sleeping is due to the fact that we saw what happened. If you saw it, it brings a trauma to you. So we are requesting from the minister or whoever is supposed to be in charge of this to help us with trauma counseling for all the kids and all the people that are around here so that they can sleep. And we request again, if it's possible, that they did speak to ESCOM, because now due to the load shedding, and we do have a storm, so it's giving us a problem to sleep at night, because you sleep with the darkness and you still got load shedding, and then at the same time you still got rain that to deal with. Tomorrow in the morning, today in the morning it was raining. It was a little bit difficult for us to cope. You couldn't stay in the house. You have to be out and in, just to check on how far is the level of the water outside, so that if it's needed to save the people, you start saving them when it's still time, because we don't want to go through the same journey of saving people when it's already too late. We are just lucky that so far we don't have anyone who's injured.
And this is just a week and a half before Christmas, where people like to get together at their homes and have a Christmas meal and a family time. It's truly devastating for them. And the worst is that it doesn't look like it's over. We were just saying, we're looking at the forecast and we're seeing 60-70% chance of rain for the next few days. But you've spoken to emergency service, and there's one day in particular they're concerned about.
Certainly, Sally, they're concerned about this coming weekend, Friday in particular, and that's why they're saying that there could be more heavy downpours. Of course, they're working quite closely with the South African Weather Services. I know that on a daily basis they're in contact with them to get an update as far as warnings are concerned and what's going to happen with the weather, because it helps them also to prepare. Some of the areas, the hotspots, where, of course, they have to focus their attention on. We know they have teams on those particular hotspots that are dealing with the situation, that are monitoring the river levels, that are also disseminating information to public members, when to get out, when is the time to get out, what should they see for them to do that, but also just warning them to stay clear of low-lying areas and so forth. So there is work that is being done on the ground. Of course, they are quite concerned the fact that the rains are still continuing. They remain on high alert for any eventuality.